it is without a doubt, based on the timeline from 93 to when Mississippi Doug's album was released, and 94 when Juicy was dropped, that Biggie and Puffy did steal Mississippi Doug's name, as well as the idea for the title song off of Biggie's album, Juicy. Let's get into these facts. Let's get into this straight game.
Yeah. Blackjack. Life is like a game of cards. It's not what you dealt, but how you play it. Yeah. Blackjack. To play each situation correctly. I remember they used to laugh at a brother.
Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. It's your boy DELRAY Richardson, platinum artist, platinum songwriter, Straight Game TV. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your time. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and tell a friend. And most importantly, if you're new to the channel and you would like to be one of the first people notified when I drop some of this straight game, please do me a favor and hit the bell notification right below this video. I'm gonna get right into it. Recently, there was a story in regards to the Notorious B.I.G. and a young guy down south by the same name. And the question was, do you think that Biggie stole this young guy's image, as well as his name, as well as the song, or should I say the idea for the song Juicy? And I want to go back to Tupac, because I had done a series of videos in regards to Tupac helping Biggie out and looking out for Biggie before Biggie was well known and on the scene, as the Notorious B.I.G. Now, you got to remember, first, he was going by the name of Biggie Smalls, right? So with that being the fact that he was going by Biggie Smalls, when he came out with his first record, his name was then the Notorious B.I.G., right? And so when you think about that, it's undeniable that they changed his name and that they got that name from somewhere. But what's most telling is the fact that not only was the name the same, but the track that the guy, the M2 made track that the guy had rapped on, Biggie had did the same identical track, as well as the same name. So if you ask me, did Biggie borrow, or I wouldn't say steal, but I mean you could say steal. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or hijack the guy's name and that track, I would have to say absolutely yes, he did. And so that goes back to what Tupac was saying, and like I say, hip hop is a competitive sport, if you will, if you want to call it that. And I go back to Tupac saying, when Tupac said, "It's all about Versace, you copy my style." You know what I mean? 5 shots couldn't stop me, I took it and smile. Or drop me, I took it and smile. So now, I go with that because most people say, well, Biggie was better than Tupac, right? And everybody has their own personal opinion, and you can have your opinion on it if you want to. It's perfectly all right. But how can, you got to ask yourself, how can Biggie be better than Tupac, right? When Biggie actually stole somebody's name, as well as the first song that he ever released as a single, which was Juicy. He stole the whole concept. And what tells us that happened that way is because this guy, right, his record was out before Biggie put his record out. So the timeline matches up. Not only just what the young man is saying, a lot of times people don't want to give people their credit because they might not be well known. Like this young man here, he probably was known down south, you know what I mean? But a lot of people up north, New York, out west, and so on and so forth, didn't really know who the guy was. You know what I mean? But it's clear. It's clear. It is crystal clear based on the date when this was released versus when Biggie dropped his first single versus Biggie was going by Biggie Smalls at first, and then he changed his name to the Notorious B.I.G. It's, basically identical to this guy's name. That's not a coincidence. We got to be clear about that. So like I said, when you go with the Tupac thing, like I tried to tell people, Tupac was original. You know what I mean? There was nothing carbon copy about Tupac. That's why so many people like to, claim they the new Tupac, the next Tupac, and so on and so forth, because of his authenticity. And so that's the thing that I'm talking about. You got to take into totality the difference between Biggie and the difference between Tupac, right? And the fact of the matter that before Biggie was even known or on like that and known worldwide or, throughout the tri-state area like that, Tupac had him on tour with him, opening up and doing shows with him. You understand what I'm saying? And so, like I said, Biggie was dope. Don't get me wrong. Biggie was fly. He was show enough about that work. You know what I mean? And like I said, you can take nothing away from Biggie, but you cannot deny that Biggie got that name and the idea for Juicy from that guy. It's too much of a coincidence. It's Notorious B.I. and then Notorious B.I.G. and Juicy's your first single. It's like a match made in heaven. And that also goes to show you that the marketing and the promotion of a big label or having the machine behind you, right, where you can kind of smother a lesser known artist and people would never find out about where Biggie had really got that name from and where Biggie had really got the idea for that first single from. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of people always equate it to that. And that just goes to show you that, well, you don't have to be big or well known. Like I said, if the record label picks you up and promotes you and markets you and the world finds out about you, then then you are what appears to be the original or the best at what that is. But it's clear that the young man from down south, he was that guy. He was the original Notorious B.I. You know what I mean? He was the original guy who came out with the song using the M2 sample, which Biggie then did over and then titled it Juicy. You understand what I'm saying? So when you think about that, that's the craziest part. So people always are quick to look at the most famous person and the person with the name and say, well, Biggie was X, Y, and Z. And I understand all of the emotions and things like that. And I feel the same way. I think Biggie was a hell of an MC. You know what I mean? He was a hell of a rapper, and you can't take that away from Biggie. But you also can't take away the fact that Biggie got that name and got that idea for that song from the young man down south. That is a fact, and that's something that we can't overlook. And so you go into all of what everybody else has been saying, like, who's better? They had will.i.am speak on. I guess basically he came up and said, well, Biggie or Tupac didn't do it for him. And I understand where will.i.am was coming from, like listening to Tribe Called Quest and all of that. It was a different vibration of the kind of music that Tribe Called Quest and De La Soul was bringing through. You know what I mean? But I also think that when you talk about Tupac in particular, right? And you talk about Biggie, because I'm going to tell you, I can give you one song in particular that for me, that inspired me as far as Biggie, and I can give you one from Tupac. So I don't totally agree with will.i.am in regards to that, right? And the song from Biggie was Sky's the Limit. You know what I mean? That's a very inspiring song. You know what I mean? That wants you to, inspires you to go for your goals and go for your dreams. And he's like, yo, see you chumps on top. You know what I mean? And that's whatever your goal or your dream was. So I disagree with will.i.am, and I think he was trying to paint a broad brush across Biggie and Tupac with that statement. Tupac, let's go with Me Against the World, right? Very inspiring song. He said it's just me against the world. You know what I mean? And a lot of times for people who feel like that, it is just them against the world. They have that feeling. And Tupac is basically saying, never give up. You know what I mean? Never forget about your goals and your dreams. what do you say? When in the position of making the difference, politicians and hypocrites, they don't want to listen. It was nothing like the game. It's just me against the world. You know, this is the same thing that we're dealing with in these crazy times right now. Dealing with politics, dealing with, the January 6th and all of that stuff, And so I would have to beg to differ with will.i.am. And like I said, I don't think that when he did that interview that he was challenged enough in regards to what that really meant and what he was saying in regards to that. But I do understand it was how he personally felt, how it affected him. But when you talk about the in-depth statement or looking at the facts of the matter, you got Sky's the Limit from Biggie. You got Me Against the World from Tupac. You got Dear Mama. And you got a few other songs where they drop jewels, that would help you understand and want to be more than what you are. You know what I mean? And by using them as the power of example, coming from humble beginnings, should I say, but making it out and becoming a success in their own right. Tupac, acting and so on and so forth. So, I just wanted to deal with those two subjects, if you will. But like I said, when you go back to what that was in regards to the story about the young man from down south and Biggie taking his name, as well as the inspiration for that record, from that record that he did that turned into Juicy. Yeah, Biggie did do that. You know what I mean? I don't know if it was Biggie's idea or Puffy's idea, but we can clearly see, that did happen. And so, yeah, that's the crazy part about that. But that's the way the game goes. And like I said, for Tupac saying the same thing about Biggie, and the song, hey, it's all about Versace. You copy my style. You know what I mean? Listen to his record, Tupac said, first he was talking about murder, this, that, and the other. Now he's talking about Versace and wearing all of this, that, and the other because he's seen me wearing it and rocking it and talking about it from that perspective. So I think hip-hop is one of those things where you do borrow some stuff. You know what I mean? Some people bite other people's styles and things like that. But, but Biggie took dude's whole name and the first single, and he blew up on it. And I got to give the dude down south some credit. You got to give him some credit. He might not have been, known worldwide or, had the big push, the big support from the label and the machine behind him. But my man did his thing. And like I said, he deserves some credit for that. Yeah, your boy DELRAY, straight game.